He's been knocking me and saying all kinds of bad things about me trying to give some guys a break.
These videos are satiric reviews. You don't have to agree, but don't bitch about it.
Hey there, I'm Social Injustice Warrior, the Infuso. And if you're a wrestling fan who grew up watching in the early 90s, you probably knew the wrestler Earthquake. A behemoth of a man who would bounce around the ring, causing his opponents to shake as if there actually was an earthquake. See that? That's clever. If you're a fan of the Attitude Era, you may unfortunately remember him as Gogola. Or at least, I think that's how he pronounced it. It was a completely forgettable run that would see him masked and team with the Oddities. And it would showcase an apparent obsession he had with Eric Cartman of all people. It was so bad in theory and execution that it was actually voted the worst gimmick of that year. But in between those two runs, he worked with WCW both as Avalanche, a cash-in on his Earthquake gimmick, and the Shark, a character retooling that would see him join the infamous Dungeon of Doom stable. More on that later. Tenta would eventually drop the Shark gimmick, stating that he was a man.
I'm not the shark. I'm not a fish. I'm a man.
I am a man!
Oh gee, I wonder how many people I'll piss off with using that Linkara clip after talking shit on Linkara in the past. My guess is a lot. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
I'm not a shark. I'm a man. I remember him saying that. I'm a man. I'm not a shark.
Tenta would start working shows under his birth name, mostly jobbing out during his tenure, being the old star who put new talent over. Though eventually, he was given one last storyline with the company. As the NWO continued their hostile takeover of the WCW, Roddy Piper, NWO leader Hulk Hogan's longtime rival, sought out a way to save WCW and rid it of Hogan. Now, it's important to note that stars such as Sting and stables such as the Four Horsemen had tried and failed to defeat the New World Order in the past. What could Roddy Piper possibly do that they haven't done? Well, Hot Rod took it upon himself to create a new stable. A group which would be dubbed Roddy Piper's Family. Though none of the men who worked with him actually had any relation to the Rowdy one. That we know of, at least. Instead of opting to find some talent in the WCW main roster, he assembled a team of basic nobodies. And John Tenta, who was hardly recognizable at this point, having lost a vast amount of weight and hair. In order for these no-names to gain entrance into Piper's Family, they'd have to face him in a gauntlet match of sorts, with those who impressed the Hot Rod becoming an official member. And this was probably the worst open challenge I have ever seen in my life. I mean, just look at it. These are highlights I'm showing you. This is the good stuff. Also of note was that one of these nobodies was Luther Reigns, a guy who would later become somebody in the WWE, before returning to his calling of being nobody. Now, you may take that offensively, but just remember that's coming from me, a guy who's never even been a somebody. As it turns out, this was actually a creative decision made by Piper, which WCW management had little to no faith in, and they were right to. In theory, this wasn't the worst plan. Bring in a few guys and showcase how tough they are. He intentionally chose a sumo wrestler, a kickboxer, and a boxer to join him in a fight. And frankly, that's one hell of a team to enter a fight with. A wrestling match, however, not so much. The team lacked charisma and credibility, being booked immediately to take on the Powerhouse stable. In execution, too much got lost in translation. The fans were either just being introduced or being reintroduced to these guys before they even got a chance to like or dislike them. Now all of a sudden they're being pushed as a threat to the biggest stable in the industry at that time, and possibly of all time? Their names hadn't even been known, and now they're going to compete against the uncontested star power of the NWO? Even their B-team members were more over than these guys. After the family was assembled to little fanfare, the following week they appeared beside Piper in solidarity, dressing in kilts just as their kayfabe godfather had. Piper proceeded to cut a promo in which he'd promote the upcoming pay-per-view every 12 seconds by saying its name.
Uncensored! Uncensored!
Thought I'd throw it in.
Uncensored! Uncensored, right?
This is uncensored.
When all of a sudden the Horsemen approached, asking Piper to rethink his decision to use what Arn Anderson referred to as amateurs, and go with professionals, that being themselves.
But this is a job for professionals, not amateurs.
They tugged his arm and eventually Piper gave in, agreeing to instead team with the Horsemen to take on the NWO.
Back be proud to fight with the horses. And I am not a fair weather friend. I am not somebody that is going to take these people and
which the family just kind of casually agreed to, like, oh yeah, no, that's a good idea, it works, I was going to suggest that. Maybe that's because they weren't actually told about this promo or how it would end before they gone out on camera. Well, this infuriated John Tenta, and rightfully so. Here was a man who'd spent years in the business, was once part of a team known as the Natural Disasters with Typhoon, had previously won WWF Gold, and had even looked across the ring at Hulk Hogan in a feud. Not to mention he had legitimate experience as a former sumo wrestler, football player, and college wrestler. And here he was being called an amateur and deemed not ready by one of the all-time greats in the business. Even looking back at the promo, you can see that Arn is looking in his direction when he says that. And Arn, you got some balls. You got some balls on you calling John Tenta an amateur and your 8th or 9th generation horseman stable professionals when you have Steve Mongo McMichael standing right behind you. But I guess I should expect as much. As these men claim to be horsemen, it's no wonder he was full of horse shit. Now I know that Earthquake wasn't known for his in-ring prowess or his superior skill as a worker, but to claim that Mongo McMichaels is in some way, shape, or form above him, I'm sorry, bullshit. And you can tell just how pissed John gets here, as he spends the rest of the promo storming around back and forth whenever he is on camera, and even talking to Mean Gene for an extended amount of time. You could almost hear him saying, "Did that motherfucker say what I think he just said?" As stated, and as you can imagine, Tenta didn't take kindly to the insult, and decided to vent his frustration by blowing up backstage, throwing whatever he could find around, and looking to actually fight the former enforcer. Luckily, the team of Harlem Heat, Booker T and Stevie Ray, would be there in an attempt to calm the big man down, though even Stevie admits they'd had a hard time doing so.
They changed the angle on the telecast without telling him. Then all of a sudden, the door pops open. Bam! Goddamn motherfucker! That son of a bitch! I'll stretch his fucking ass! Son of a bitch, I will do this. I will stretch this. He doesn't know I will do this. And me and my brother sitting there like, what's wrong with Tenta? He's livid. Now you got to realize, John Tenta, a big man. He's throwing stuff. He's hitting the wall. Oh, expletive this, expletive that. Tenta is a friend, and we were trying to calm him down. The man was red. So me and my brother go, "John, calm down, man. What's up?" And we trying to figure out who. And he said, "Arn Anderson, that's who." Apparently, Arn came and did a promo, and he said something about, "They're not ready." And Tenta said when he said that in the interview, Arn Anderson looked at him.
But this is a job for professionals, not amateurs.
Whatever the anger was has been squashed, and he didn't know until that moment. But this man was ready to kill somebody. I never seen anybody this pissed off. The door, because you know trailers got a door on this end, a door on this end. The door opens on this end. It's on and sees. He just closes the door right back.
Did Tenta see him?
No.
He didn't see him.
And
Okay.
me and my brother didn't tell him either.
I'd imagine the earth shook that night, behind the scenes, as he sought after Anderson for a fight that ultimately would never happen. And unsurprisingly, not long after, he would head to WWF. And hey, why? What's wrong, buddy? Was it something Arn said?
These men here got more guts inside of them. They may not be polished, but they're my family.
So with that being said, I'm the Social Injustice Warrior V Infuso, and if you like the words that came out of my mouth hole and you too want to become a VTard, don't forget to like and subscribe. There's plenty more where this video came from. Follow me on Twitter because, hell, why not? It's not considered stalking if it's on the internet, am I right? And don't forget to join the Discord. I don't have anything catchy to add to that, but just join it. Just go do it. And if you have a free moment of time and a free $1 to spare, then head over to my Patreon, where for just $1, you too could help keep this boat afloat. And if you don't have that $1, but you do have a free moment of time, then hit the share button. It will help me out tremendously.
VTart. Oh.